everyone. Full transparency, this is the 5th time I've tried to film today. Every time I've tried to film today, something has gone wrong and I filmed the whole video and it's been out of focus. The sound's been off. I haven't liked what I've been talking about. It's been a mess. So I'm gonna film this video, and if you don't like it, I'm probably gonna cry, but I know it's gonna be my fault. Without further ado, today I want to talk about something that I'm really passionate about, and that's why I went to school for it. So as many of you may or may not know, I'm a classics major. My undergrad is ancient art and archaeology. So that means I focus on ancient Greece and ancient Rome, all of that empire shit that's so fun and cool. And I want to kind of start a series about my favorite queer historical figures. So today we're gonna start with probably one of my absolute favorite queer historical figures. It's kind of like a package deal. We're gonna be talking about a Roman emperor today and his lover. We're going to be talking about the Emperor Hadrian and his lover Antinous. Hadrian and Antinous is one of my favorite love stories of all time, because although most of what we're talking about may not be true, it's still a historical relationship of two men who went above and beyond the expectations of what males should be in ancient Rome, and especially males in power, and turned it into a beautiful love story of romance and intrigue. So the relationship between a Roman Emperor Hadrian and the Greek sex slave Antinous is so fantastic, like crazy exciting, almost impossible to believe at some point. It's a tragic tale of immense love, passion, mystery, intrigue, and scandal. The scandal wasn't about two men having sex. No. The scandal was about two men falling in love. Now, we don't know a lot about Hadrian, and what we do know might come from unreliable sources, because a lot of historical writers at the time were biased. You can argue that historical writers today are biased to some extent as well, but this was before kind of the practice of historical writing became what it is today. So a lot of the sources we have are mixed with mythology and rumors and biased against Hadrian. We really don't have any sources on Antinous because he was a Greek slave. Everyone writing at the time were high-class citizens who really didn't care about a slave, so we don't know his story at all. What we do know is that Antinous was one of the most beautiful men to have ever lived, like a real looker. Beautiful body, gorgeous hair, personality for days apparently, and Hadrian was into that. Like, Hadrian loved a good-looking man. So a little background on kind of male-on-male relationships in ancient Rome. Like, a lot of professors and people like to say that we shouldn't be labeling ancient figures, especially in the classical world, as like gay or lesbian or bisexual, just because sex was such a common thing and it really didn't matter what gender was which, as long as you stuck to the rigid like rules and society that society made up. A Roman emperor taking a male lover wasn't weird or like disgusting, it was normal. Like, most emperors had male concubines that they would just like, you know, but you had to be the dominant partner if you were the male. Like, if you were the emperor or the like male in the family, you were allowed to have sex with men as long as you were like the top. The other person had to be the more submissive bottom for this relationship to be accepted by the society. The rumors were that Hadrian didn't take a dominant position in the relationship. Not only did he fall in love with Antinous, which was totally against the rules, he took more of the passive submissive side, which, like, amazing for him, like bottom power, we're all for that. What made it even easier for Hadrian to get away with this relationship so long was that Antinous was not only a sex slave, but he was a foreign sex slave. So as a Roman, any foreigner, especially a foreign sex slave, was looked as a tool or like a sex toy than an actual human being. What was so amazing about this relationship between Antinous and Hadrian was that it went beyond a male-on-male sex partnership. It fell into the realm of a real relationship and real love. People would call Antinous Hadrian's husband. Hadrian would bring Antinous to royal ceremonies and state dinners and parade him around his citizens. Basically, Hadrian toured his empire with Antinous by his side and had sex with him from Britain all the way to Byzantium. Now, as with tradition, Hadrian was married to a woman because as emperor, he was expected to produce an heir to follow his line of succession. But Hadrian was never able to sire a child, or much less a son, which really brought into question his ability to lead. People thought if he couldn't produce an heir, then he wasn't masculine or male enough or fit enough to run the empire. It kind of let not only himself and his wife down, but the whole empire, and really fanned the flames to the gossip about him being a full homosexual, not just a man who has sex with other men, which is different apparently. But one of my favorite things about Hadrian, I keep saying my favorite thing, but like one of my favorite things about him was that he was a great emperor. Like, he fostered in a time of great peace in the empire, but the reason that he was such a good emperor was that he was great at taking the public eye off of himself and putting it towards the empire. And by doing this, he spent as little time in the capital as possible. Anytime there was like conflict, he would kind of just like skedaddle out of there. And because he was such a good emperor, the empire turned a blind eye towards his homosexuality and kind of just like swept it under the rug. Now we get into the mysterious part of this relationship. It wasn't the relationship itself, because they were both so open. It was Antinous's death, unfortunately. Around 139 CE, like 1900 years ago or so, Hadrian and Antinous were on a tour in Egypt, and they were going down the Nile in their like beautiful boats, laying in their like linen cloth, nude, having sex all the way down the country, like having a great kiki kai kai good time. Suddenly, this was the trip that Antinous died. He fell off the boat and drowned. Now, there's a lot of speculation going around as to if he just fell in the water, if he was pushed, but the kind of common agreement between historians is that Antinous took his own life. Now, with that, there's two possible reasons for it. One was Antinous took his life because he thought by being in the relationship with Hadrian, it was tarnishing Hadrian's reputation. He thought that if he continued in this romantic relationship with Hadrian, Hadrian wouldn't be remembered for all the great things he did as emperor. He would be remembered as the gay emperor, the homosexual emperor who went against his people's wishes for his own selfish needs. The other reason Antinous was thought to have taken his own life was because there was a common conception that if you took your life, it would prolong the life of someone else. So by Antinous taking his own life, he thought that it would keep Hadrian alive longer without the distraction of Antinous being there. It would cut down on the whispers of assassination or coup that were going around during Hadrian's rule. But it could have just been a common case of a slippery deck and he fell and it was a tragedy. We'll just never know, unfortunately. Now, we come to the most romantic part about their relationship, which is like above and beyond anything that you could like comprehend, is the way that Hadrian memorialized his lover after his passing. Hadrian's reaction to the death of his boyfriend/husband is nothing short of absolutely epic. He founded a city near the death place of Antinous and called it Antinopolis. And Hadrian, being an emperor, had the power to deify Antinous. So after Antinous' death, he decreed that Antinous was now a god and was to be worshipped as one. He built temples throughout the empire and made up to 2,000 statues depicting Antinous's image. Like, are you kidding me? Hadrian hired Greek sculptors, who were the best sculptors in the world, to recreate the stunning beauty of this man that he loved. You can tell an Antinous sculpture by a few features. A huge swelling chest to show his rippling muscles, some beautiful Grecian kind of like curly locks, and all of the statues are looking down at you. When the Roman Empire converted to Christianity, unfortunately, because of the persistent rumors of the relationship, the Christian people tore down these temples and destroyed most of the statues. We only know of about 80 to 100 statues of Antinous that survive, and they're currently all being held in the Vatican. What's cool about Hadrian is he, from the beginning, went against the grain of what a Roman emperor was supposed to be. It starts with his looks. Hadrian, if you've ever seen a picture of a statue of him, he has a big beard. Before Hadrian, emperors were expected to be clean-cut, shaven, warrior princes, basically. Hadrian changed that. He wanted to be more of a Greek ruler. So he grew out his beard, he loved the art, he loved architecture, anything that was like more an artsy scene. And he was a trendsetter because after him, every emperor grew that kind of burly, like, beard, which is pretty gay if you ask me. And Hadrian was the ultimate scammer. There's no proof in this, but Hadrian, although he was related to the Emperor Trajan, who was his cousin or uncle, very confusing family tree, we think that his adoption papers were forged, so he forged his own adoption papers so he could become emperor, which was like the ultimate scam, which we love a scammer, like, don't we? So I think it's amazing that he, like, did that. So Hadrian and Antinous are important to learn about and remember because they're a queer relationship that actually survived, and we can actually have stories of them to tell other people who study this. A lot of the time, these queer representations in history were straightwashed and erased by the old white men who were writing the history in the 1930s and 1940s. It's not only a beautiful love story about two men who defied all the odds in the highest power that they could to be together. It's also a story about power dynamics and the way that we write history. I know a lot of queer kind of historical figures in the classical time that we often erase or try to erase. So if you guys are interested in hearing about them, I would really love some feedback, and I would love to start kind of a mini-series writing about them. We can even venture out of the classical world into another part of the world or another time period I would love to kind of teach you guys about. So if you survived through this really long video, please subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a comment below, like the video, do all that kind of good stuff. And all my social media links are below, so you can follow those too. I upload every Thursday pretty consistently, so I will see you all next week. Have a great day, my loves. And remember this, Hadrian turned his lover into a god. What have you done for someone that you love today?